What happens when motivation disappears at 5 a.m., when your alarm hits and your body is screaming, "Not today"? That's where most people fold. That's where average men hit snooze and call it fate. But listen close. Success habits aren't built on feelings. They're built on daily habits you follow when motivation ghosts you. Motivation is hype. Discipline is law. And law doesn't care how you feel. Every motivational speech sounds good in the moment, but only discipline shows up when the noise fades. This is where winners are separated, right here, in the dark, before the world is watching. You ever notice how motivation feels powerful, but never loyal? One day you're fired up by a motivational video. Next day you're empty, scrolling, wasting time. That's because motivation is emotional, discipline is intentional. Habits don't ask for permission. They don't wait for a good mood. The most successful people in this world don't rely on inspiration. They rely on daily habits that run on autopilot. That's how real success habits are formed. You don't rise when you're motivated. You rise when your habits pull you forward, even when you're tired, angry, or doubting yourself. What if I told you motivation is for beginners, but discipline is for champions? Yeah, that's real talk. Motivation pumps you up, but discipline trains you to last. That's why every legendary motivational speech eventually comes back to the same truth: consistency beats intensity. The gym doesn't care how inspired you are. Life doesn't care how pumped you feel. Your future only responds to what you do daily. That's why habits are the real superpower. Stack the right daily habits, and success becomes predictable, not lucky. Why do average men wait for inspiration while unstoppable men move without it? Because unstoppable men understand psychology. They know motivation is a spark, but habits are the engine. They build systems. They lock in routines. They turn discipline into identity. That's how motivational videos turn into real life results. You don't need more hype, you need structure. You don't need another quote. You need success habits repeated until they become automatic. That's how ordinary days create extraordinary lives. What are you doing on the days you don't feel like it? That question defines your destiny. Anybody can act when they're motivated, but only disciplined men act when it's uncomfortable. That's why pain becomes part of the ritual. That's why growth feels lonely. And that's why every powerful inspirational video hits the same nerve: do it anyway. Build daily habits that don't negotiate. Show up when it's boring. Execute when it's quiet. That's how motivation turns into momentum. So ask yourself, are you chasing motivation or are you building habits? Because one fades fast and the other builds legacy. Motivation is loud. Discipline is silent. But discipline always wins. Lock in your habits. Dominate your daily habits, and your life will start responding differently. If you master discipline, success has no choice but to follow. Who do you become when nobody's watching and there's nothing to prove today? That's the real question, because your identity isn't built on big moments. It's built on habits you repeat when the spotlight is off. Everybody wants a breakthrough. Everybody wants motivation. Everybody wants that one motivational video that flips a switch. But listen, identity is forged in the small stuff. The quiet reps, the boring reps, the daily habits you follow even when it feels like they don't matter. That's how success habits start rewriting who you are. Have you ever noticed how small choices slowly turn into a lifestyle? Yeah, that's not luck, that's psychology. Skip one workout, you become the guy who skips. Read 10 pages a day, you become a reader. Wake up early consistently, you become disciplined. That's how habits work. They vote for your identity every single day. Motivation might hype you up, but daily habits shape your self-image. Every great motivational speech points back to this truth. You don't act like who you want to be. You act like who you believe you are. What if the reason motivation keeps failing you is because your identity never changed? Think about it. You watch an inspirational video, you feel fired up. You promise change, and then you go right back to old patterns. Why? Because habits beat hype. Your subconscious trusts repetition, not emotion. That's why small success habits matter more than big promises. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You need daily habits that whisper, "This is who I am now." That's how motivation becomes permanent instead of temporary. Why do unstoppable people move differently, talk differently, and think differently? Because their habits train them that way. They don't wait to feel confident. They act confident until it becomes real. They don't wait to feel disciplined. They follow daily habits until discipline becomes identity. That's the secret every real motivational video tries to pass down. You're not chasing results. You're building a version of yourself that naturally produces results. That's why habits are dangerous in the best way possible. What small habit are you repeating that's quietly shaping your future right now? Yeah, that one. The late nights, the scrolling, or maybe the workouts, the reading, the early mornings. Don't underestimate it. Small habits compound into massive character shifts. That's how success habits separate winners from talkers. That's how motivation turns into momentum. And that's why every powerful motivational speech eventually hits this nerve fix, what you do daily, and you'll fix who you are permanently. So if habits are shaping identity, then who are your habits training you to become tomorrow? Because identity drives behavior, and behavior creates destiny. You don't wake up unstoppable. You build it rep by rep, day by day, through daily habits that demand consistency. This isn't the climax yet. This is the setup, the foundation, the internal shift before the external rise. And once identity locks in, everything else starts moving differently. What are you doing in the first 5 minutes after you wake up? Winning the day or giving it away? Because that moment decides everything. Champions don't start their day reacting to the world. They attack it with daily habits. The phone stays down. The excuses stay quiet. This is where success habits are born. Motivation feels good, but mornings demand discipline. Every real motivational speech tells you this without sugarcoating it. How you start your day programs your mindset for the next 24 hours. Stack the right habits early, and the rest of the day falls in line. Ever wonder why motivated people still lose while disciplined people keep winning? Because motivation wakes up late. Winners wake up early. They build daily habits before the world gets loud. They train their mind before emails, drama, and distractions hit. That's why every powerful motivational video talks about routines. Morning rituals aren't about hype, they're about control. You don't need perfect conditions, you need consistent actions. That's how motivation turns into execution, and execution turns into results. What if your morning routine is either building your future or sabotaging it? Think about it. Chaos in the morning equals chaos in life. Winners slow the morning down so they can speed the rest of the day up. They read. They move. They plan. They lock in success habits before the world makes demands. This is where inspiration becomes structure. Every inspirational video you've ever felt came alive because someone mastered their mornings, not because they waited to. Feel ready. And what about the night? Are you ending the day like a warrior or like a quitter? Yeah, nights matter just as much. Nighttime rituals decide how strong tomorrow starts. Scrolling till 2 a.m. isn't relaxation, it's self-sabotage. Winners close the day with intention, reflection, gratitude, preparation. That's how daily habits compound. That's how habits talk to your subconscious while you sleep. Every serious motivational speech reminds you protect your nights if you want dominant mornings. Why do most people stuck even after watching endless motivational videos? Because they consume motivation but never install rituals. They want inspiration without discipline. But real growth lives in boring routines done daily. Morning and night rituals aren't flashy, but they're lethal. They build mental toughness. They sharpen focus. They turn motivation into muscle memory. That's why elite performers guard their routines like gold. They know success habits don't happen by accident. So ask yourself, what rituals are shaping your mornings and nights right now? Because those quiet hours are training your identity. You may not see the results today, but trust this daily habits always collect interest. This is still the climb, still the setup, still the grind before the breakthrough. Lock this in, because what comes next demands a mind that's already disciplined, already sharp, already hungry. What if the pain you're avoiding is the exact thing that's supposed to level you up? Yeah, let that hit. Because most people don't fail from lack of motivation. They fail because they run from discomfort. They want the reward without the grind. They want inspiration without sacrifice. But every real motivational speech will tell you this straight-up pain is not the enemy. Comfort is. Pain is the tuition you pay for power, and daily habits decide whether you keep paying or keep quitting. Why do you think average men quit the moment things get uncomfortable? Because they were trained to chase pleasure, not purpose. The moment it hurts, they think something's wrong. But listen, pain is feedback. Pain is growth knocking at the door. Every motivational video that actually changes lives teaches this mindset shift. If it burns, you're doing something right. The gym hurts. Discipline hurts. Saying no hurts. But those habits are shaping a stronger version of you, whether you feel motivated or not. What if pain isn't a punishment, but a signal that you're evolving? Think about it. Muscles tear before they grow. Mindsets break before they expand. That's not motivation talk. That's biology and psychology. The most powerful success habits are built in moments where quitting feels justified. Pain is the cost of entry to the next level. And once you accept that, your daily habits stop being optional. They become non-negotiable. Ever notice how unstoppable people don't complain about the grind? They expect it. They schedule it. They build rituals around discomfort. Cold mornings, heavy lifts, long hours, hard conversations. That's how pain turns into confidence. That's how habits rewire your brain to stop fearing struggle. Every serious inspirational video points back to this truth. Comfort creates weak habits, and weak habits create weak lives. Pain creates pressure, and pressure creates diamonds. Why do motivational speeches hit hardest when they talk about suffering? Because deep down, everybody knows the truth. There is no shortcut. There is no cheat code. The life you want is guarded by pain. That's why most people never get it. They want motivation to make things easy, but real motivation teaches you how to endure. The strongest daily habits are built when you show up tired, sore, and doubting yourself, and still execute. So what pain are you running from that you need to start running toward? Because that pain is shaping your future, whether you face it or avoid it. Avoid it, and it owns you. Embrace it, and it sharpens you. This isn't the finish line yet. This is the forge. The heat before the strength. The pressure before the power. And what's coming next will demand someone who's already proven they can suffer and still move forward. What if the only thing separating you from the life you want is what you do every single day? Not once. Not when you feel motivated. Every day. That's the truth nobody wants to hear, because consistency exposes excuses. Talent is flashy, motivation is loud, but habits are ruthless. They don't care about your mood. They don't care about your past. They only care about repetition. Every legendary motivational speech eventually lands here. Consistency isn't sexy, but it's unstoppable. Stack the right daily habits and time becomes your weapon. Why do so many people start strong, but disappear when results take time? Because they were chasing motivation, not mastery. Motivation feels good for a week. Consistency builds power for a lifetime. Real success habits don't blow up overnight. They compound quietly. That's why most people quit right before the breakthrough. Every motivational video that truly hits different is really saying one thing: keep showing up when nobody's clapping. Keep working when progress feels invisible. That's how average men slowly turn into legends. What happens when consistency becomes your identity instead of effort? That's when everything changes. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop asking, do I feel like it? Your habits decide for you. The gym happens. The work happens. The discipline happens. Not because you're special, but because you trained your brain through daily habits. This is where motivation fades and respect shows up. This is where people start saying, "You're different," without knowing why. Ever notice how legends make hard things look easy? That's consistency at work. You don't see the years of repetition. You don't see the boring routines. You don't see the lonely grind behind closed doors. But it's all built on success habits, repeated until excellence becomes normal. Every real inspirational video is just the highlight reel of someone who refused to quit on ordinary days. Consistency turns discipline into dominance. What if consistency is the real form of self-belief? Think about it. Showing up daily is proof you trust the process, even when results lag. That's faith in action. That's motivation with muscle. That's why consistency beats talent, luck, and hype every time. The strongest daily habits don't just change outcomes, they change self-respect. And once you respect yourself, your standards rise automatically. So here's the final question. What legend are your habits building right now? Because time is watching. Life is watching. And your future is taking notes. You don't need more motivation. You need fewer gaps in consistency. Lock in your habits. Guard your daily habits. Commit to success habits like your life depends on it, because it does. This isn't just a motivational speech or another motivational video. This is the line in the sand. Stay average or stay consistent. One creates excuses. The other creates legends.